Welcome to Vacation Bible School at Prescott United Methodist Church. It's day 2. Welcome. My name is Mary, and I'm here today to talk about, have you ever been hungry? And that's what our story is about. You know, when you were really hungry, how did your tummy feel? Was it just kind of like, oh, I can't take it? Or was it kind of, oh, I'm really hungry? Anyway, every time our cue today comes up, which is, I am so hungry I could die, I want you guys to really hold your tummy and pat it and say, ooh, I'm really hungry. So remember that. So I'm going to introduce you to Rebecca. And here she comes. I am Rebecca. I am so glad you're here today. I'm glad you get to visit my home and my family. My husband's name is Isaac, and you know what? He was the baby that was born to Abraham and Sarah that you heard about in yesterday's story. And you know what? Isaac and I have twin boys. Yeah, 2 little boys. And we live in a tent in the desert area. Our boys' names are Esau and Jacob. You know what? Having twins is such a blessing, but it's a lot of work, let me tell you. Even when they were babies and they were born at the same time, they didn't really look alike. Jacob was very fair. He liked to play indoors, and he was very reflective and mild-mannered. Esau, he was the firstborn, he came charging out, and he loves to be outside. And you know what? He is just the hairiest guy. And as he grew up, his muscles were really big, and he was really strong. Now, Esau was the firstborn. That means they were born at the same time, but Esau came out of the womb first. But do you know what? Jacob was so eager to get out that he had a hold of his brother's heel when he came out of the womb. So he was really close to being firstborn. Well, I still love those boys. I just love them so much, but they were very different from each other. And sometimes they didn't get along very well. Have you ever said something that maybe you didn't want to say to somebody you love, like your sister or your brother? Well, when they fought, they sometimes said things that weren't very nice, and really, they shouldn't have said. So let me tell you about something that changed the lives of my boys and my family forever, just because of one comment. It was, as I think back, it was just an ordinary day. We were all doing our chores. You know how it is. Everybody has chores around the tent. Jacob was cooking stew. Oh, let me tell you, he was the best cook. I can still smell that stew and hear it bubbling. It was just, I was getting really hungry. My mouth was watering. Esau, of course, had been outside. He was working with the goats. He was milking the goats. He was bringing up water. He walked probably 5 miles that day. And you know what? He was hungry, really hungry. And he came into the tent, and you know what he said? Are you ready for this? I'm so hungry I could die. Ooh. Well, Esau was very upset that Jacob was cooking and not helping him. That was one of the things they fought about. Jacob kind of got a raw deal because, he did come out second, and he didn't get what they called the birthright. That meant that when his parents were no longer there, the firstborn would inherit everything, all the money and the tents and the goats and everything they had. It was pretty cool, but Jacob didn't get it. And Esau thought he got kind of a raw deal, and Jacob thought he got kind of a raw deal too. But anyway, it was the law, and it's just the way it was. So, things were not always friendly for sure. But this day, when Esau came in, Jacob just rolled his eyes. And Esau was so hungry that he often just stepped out of the way. But that day, he made a different decision. He said, Esau, let's make a deal. I'll give you a cup of stew, big bowl of stew, and you won't be hungry anymore if you give me your birthright. That means he would inherit everything instead of Esau. Well, Esau was so hungry. How hungry was he? He could almost die. He was so hungry. Wow. But guess what? Jacob was pretty serious about it. But Esau said, okay, because he was so hungry. And Jacob gave him the stew. He ate the stew. And as a result, wow, what a result. Jacob became the one that got the birthright and all the money and all the lands, etc. And it created a great big crack in their friendship and their family relationship. And nothing was ever the same again, just because he was so hungry he could almost die, and he made a quick decision and maybe said something he didn't want to say. You know, that reminds me, and we have this scroll, and it's called Psalms, and in that Psalms, it's what we call a Hebrew book, and there's this verse, and I'm going to teach it to you today. Teach us to count our days, that we may gain a wise heart. I wish that Esau would have had a wise heart that day. And I wish that Jacob would have had a wise heart that day too. But that's not the way it was. Can you say it with me now? Teach us to count our days, that we may gain a wise heart. That we may gain a wise heart. I love that verse. And I really wish that he would have been thinking of that before he talked. But that's not the way it was. So, let's talk about this Bible story. I'm back to being Mary again. Have you ever been hungry? Well, listen, I've been hungry. I know that. You know, some days I come in and to eat lunch and I think, I'm so hungry I just can't wait for my sandwich. And I eat my cookies first because they're really easy to eat. And they're also very good. But it would have been better if I would have eaten my sandwich first, right? Anyway, I've been hungry. Have you been hungry? I bet you've been maybe even just a little bit hungry, or maybe really hungry. You know, when Esau said, I'm so hungry I could die, that was probably what we would call an exaggeration. It's a really big word, exaggeration. Some people would call that hyperbole. It really stretches what we were really feeling, and we're being very dramatic about it. And sometimes not very nice. Have you ever been that hungry? I mean, so hungry that you needed a lot more than cookies to eat, and you had been hungry for a long time. Do you know today in our world, some people have enough to eat? And some people even have more than they need to eat. I know sometimes I eat more than I need to eat, for sure. Other people don't have enough to eat, and they are hungry. You know, do you think they are as hungry as, I could die if I don't eat right now? Well, some people are that hungry, and so we want to be very aware of who those people are. So the question I want to ask you today is, how can you and I make sure that everybody has enough to eat? Big question. And a lot of people think about that question and just are not quite sure how to answer it. I think you should talk about that with your family, because it's an important question, and there are things that we can all do so other people are not hungry. You know, I would like to pray with you today, and if you could just repeat those phrases that I say after me, and bow your heads and just be in a quiet attitude of prayer. God. Sometimes we are greedy. And we want more. More than our share. More than we have. And more than we need. Open our eyes to see our neighbors in need. And open our hands and our hearts to share what we have so that everyone has enough. Amen.